Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for today. Now this is one of those videos that I wish I had 4,000 subscribers to talk to again, but nonetheless I still have to make it. Something's been bugging me on the forums as of late. It's a thread. I'll link the thread in the description, but here it is. Here it is. Survival mode still in the cards. Now we see lots of threads like this. This is nothing new. People asking where survival mode is gone. Um, Survival mode in its current state is not going to be back anytime soon. We'll kind of scroll down to Meps' post here before I touch on the other ones. But to reiterate what's been summarized, we're 100% focused on improving the elite content, incorporating some SM cool factor into it. When we're satisfied there, we'll revisit the content of SM to see if it still has a place in the game. Now, I'm not saying that SM should never come back, but it shouldn't come back in its current rendition. And I say that because SM's been getting stale. It's the same thing over and over each year. The rewards have been getting worse. They shuffle the bosses around, but it still doesn't change. SM is still the exact same thing that it always has been. Now, that's not a bad thing because the people who want challenging and engaging content need something to do, and that's what SM was. So even though we waited for it and it's the exact same thing each time, it still gave us something to do, and that's why we liked it. But in the end, SM did really, it's not a revenue stream for DC. They don't make any money from it. No one mass replays SMs unless they're looking for certain pet styles, which is a very minority. And hardly anyone uses power tokens except maybe the upper echelon 1% of players. So really, there's no revenue stream for SM. People just run it either locked or they run it once a week just to get all their pets and their styles, and that's it. So basically, they want to give that challenging and engaging content of SM in normal elite raids that players can then play and create a positive revenue stream. Now, they've done that somewhat with the current DLC. We have Elite Gear is now once again the highest TR and better stats, like it was in Throne of the Dead, except it's not RNG. We can actually buy off the broker. The Renown is still a lot lower than it was compared to Olympus and GOM days, so it only takes like 7 or 8 runs with a booster to get max Renown, so that's not bad. Also, that the Elite lockouts are gone, progress points are gone, so you can step right into Elite and get it rather than having to worry about the next week or replaying it. So that's nice as well. As the Elite content, once you get a full Elite set, it makes the regular set cheaper, which is great because in the past we always had to get an Elite set first to get our procs and everything we needed, and then have to farm for a regular set just for that 3-star feat. So it's awesome that they're making that regular set cheaper. So the Elite experience itself is a lot better. What they've fallen short on is the actual Elite raids themselves. Pano Elite is the easiest Elite raid we've ever seen. Compared to Blackest Day, Prison Break, Darkside War Factory, Throne of the Dead, it's about as easy as Happiness Home and Olympus was, but even then, Happiness Home got a bit harder, and Olympus, the last boss, was annoying, and basically it was just a crappy scenario because once you got full Elite or full Renown in Olympus, it was screw Olympus Elite. We'll just run the regular version to farm marks because that was a very grind heavy DLC because we needed an incredible amount of marks to get our sets and all our styles and OP items and stuff. So really, I don't count Olympus and GOM. They had their own difficulty, but even though I was there, I didn't really care about the raids because it was such a grind fest, that DLC. I wasn't worried about difficulty. It was just about grinding away. But that's a bit of a sidetrack there. Back to Pano Elite. It's the easiest by far because you stepped into it the first day, first try, and leagues were beating it. Now, I'm not just saying like Success, Legacy, Select Few, Tactics, Ominous Few, World First. Those upper echelon leagues, those weren't the ones beating it the first day. It was anyone that went into it. Regular pugs were beating it. As long as you had some kind of coordination and communication in your group, you could beat it. The only thing hard is the final boss if no one's communicating. But really, when you look at an elite raid, it's not designed to be beat by a group that's not communicating whatsoever. If you're a bunch of good players and you go on, you don't need to talk and communicate, that's fine if you beat it. But elite raids are not designed for pugs who don't communicate to be able to beat it. That's not the goal of elite, to be able to be completed like that. Now, And No Escape suffered from the same drawbacks as previous Elite raids, like Ultimate Soldier and Darkside Aurora Factory, where there's a lot of mechanics going on, overlapping at once in one small room, and the artificial difficulty of the death counter. So while No Escape is more difficult than Pano Elite, it suffers from the same annoying attributes as some other previous Elite raids that need to be corrected. But I'm touching on Pano Elite at this point. So basically, that brings us to this thread, and this thread has really scared me, not only as a player but as someone who's passionate about DC. I don't think that's to be questioned that I don't have a passion for DC. Even though I quit, I keep coming back. Something always brings me back to DC. I've been playing it for 7 years. There's nothing I haven't done it or accomplished in the game. I've got great passion for it. I know other players do. They're just a silent majority. They're not as outspoken as I am, but I know they care about the game just as much as I do. And when I see threads like these and see people and writing the posts that they are, it scares me to think of this game's future. Now, this thread has 3 types of players, well, technically 4, if you want to include me in this thread as a type of person or type of player. Some of the other ones as well that are like-minded about me that I posted. But technically, there's the 3 player types that I like to talk about. One, am I on the first page here? Yeah, we've got Kid Multiverse. To me, Elite is simply not worth the headache and grind involved. Now, if unlocking the feat for Elite gear would make those viable on alts, even if they lack the renown, that would be a different story, as is Elite equals skip. So what this type of player is, he wants to be spoon-fed the game. He wants the game so easy that he can just get all his feats, get all his styles, and just, casually strew it around the watchtower hanging out with friends. He wants the game to be spoon-fed and served on a silver platter to him. This is the opinion we don't give a shit about. He does not have any point to be talking in this thread whatsoever, because his opinion is worth jack shit. The next type of person we have is Proxy Star. Big surprise. And the rest of Incarnates Reborn. Now, Proxy Star and Incarnates Reborn, they're the type of people that screen print their SM round 20 or round 10 rounds and put them up on their fridges at home so their parents can know they're not complete disappointments to them. Now, we have Proxy Star's post. Notwithstanding the point, I think Pano E does a great job acting as a gate between normal and elite. So what Proxy Star would like to say is that, in his opinion, you'll see that throughout all his posts, in his opinion, in his subjective opinion, Pano Elite is the great starting point for an elite raid. So the easiest elite raid we've ever had, and who knows, maybe that's why all these players are posting on those forums. They'd never had an elite raid they could beat so easily before, so they're saying, hey, this is great. All elite raids should be like this because I can actually beat it. Ha ha ha. This is exactly what the wrong thing we should be doing is. Pano Elite should be scrapped completely as a base. It's not even worth mentioning. All the boss fights are so linear. The first boss fight, that you can permalunge as a tank, you can permalunge Johnny quick, and that pretty much mitigates all the damage possible to the group. All the hallway ads are jokes. You can pull like 4 or 5 of those groups together, and as long as you keep the mechs juggled or stunned, they don't damage the group. Owlman on the second boss, all you have to do is kite. You don't even have to face tank him. I don't even bother face tanking him anymore. I just walk back and forth. I walk back and forth on like a 10-foot to 15 line, and he'll try to do a spinning punch, and his block breakers don't work because I'm not blocking. I'm just walking back and forth, and the group only has to worry about the fire spawns and those mechs that do the dual pistol pushback, but those don't kill anyway. They're just annoying. So like the Owlman fight is the easiest elite fight I've ever seen. I've never seen a group wipe at Owlman before. I'm talking about pugs. I'm talking about like live streams. I've never seen a group actually wipe at Owlman. He's so easy. And Ultraman is the same thing. You either got ice blocked. You're guaranteed to get ice blocked. So you can either just stay in the ice block and you'll survive the laser perfectly fine, or you just run out of the way. Make sure you're not grouped up so the mines don't overlap spawns. And that's it. Block through hugely telegraphed backhands. It's a joke. You could do it blindfolded. This is not the exemplar for an elite raid. And then the third type of person we've got iconic simulation. This is what you call a bandwagon. So basically, he's just going to hitch his wagon onto Proxy Star and all those other people that say, yeah, it's great. I disagree. I feel Penny is a good cross between reg raids to elite content. It's actually the same thing that Proxy said. The devs want to please a larger crowd versus a smaller one, less revenue. Elite raids might not meet your expectations, yada, yada, yada. So basically, the argument that people will make in this thread is that if you have really hard elite raids, and I'm not saying I want really hard elite raids, I'll get into that later, but what people are saying is that if you have really hard elite raids, they're not going to sell because people won't be able to beat them. Now, this is basically a statement referring back to Nexus and Paradox and Origin Crisis, where the devs said that the DLC was not a failure, but the DLC did not sell as many sales because people couldn't beat the content. That's because there was no other choice. And that's why you have all these Incarnates Reborn player coming out of the blue, because they couldn't beat Paradox and Nexus, so they had to skip that DLC. Because there was no other choice. You had no other raids to do. You either had to spend hours in Nexus or spend hours wiping in Paradox. There was no other versions of the raid you could do. Now we have regular and elite raids. There is no way that you can make the argument that if the elite version of the raid is really hard, it's going to sell less replays, because they're just going to run the normal version. All the elite raid gets you is a style feat. Now it gets you style feat. In the past, it was just a 0-star title feat, so there was no point to get a full elite set, and it gave you a few extra feats. And these casual players that are complaining about elite being hard aren't farming feats in the first place for skill points. They don't give a shit about skill points, so it doesn't matter to them. They're just going to run regular and have a good time. You cannot make the argument that by making elite raids super hard, no one's going to buy or use replays on them, because they're just going to run the regular. They're going to tough it out, until they get the renown, which is only like 7 or 8 raids, unless the devs change that. They're going to run the elite raid 7 or 8 times, get help, whatever they can do, and then they'll never touch elite again. They'll have max renown, then they can run regular to get enough marks to buy the elite set. They don't even have to keep farming elite. They only have to run it for that renown. And after that, who cares? So you can't make this type of argument. And that's what these players don't understand. They don't look at the big picture. They're still talking about even some of Proxy Star's arguments. He's dating back to, he's bringing up SM round 20. He's bringing up Paradox Wave. These are extreme examples that no one's even talking about. Proxy Star, Incarnates Reborns, and all the other trash players like them don't know how to balance elite, because they're not even good at beating elite in the first place, or if they've not even beat elite. We can't have these types of players, these casual ass trash players, decide how to balance elite when they all think the exact same way, where as long as if they can beat it first try, no DLC gear whatsoever, as long as if they can beat it, then it's perfectly balanced. If Proxy Star, if fucking Trexlight can go into an elite raid and beat it, and he says, yeah, this difficulty is perfect, I want all these raid like this. No, that's not the same thing. Someone actually brought it up. I think it was on, what was it, the 3rd page? Yeah, so Rings. This perfectly summarizes my opinion as well. So he says, let's make content that makes players better instead. Let's not make content that makes players better. Instead, cater to their current skill level, is all I'm reading from this page. That is 100% the truth. Proxy Star, Incarnates Reborn, and all the other trash players like him, they don't want content that will force them to become better players. They don't want the player base to become better players. They just want the player base to stay the level where it is right now. They don't want players to have to mod properly, use wipe mods, research the correct rotations, learn their roles. They don't give a shit about that. They just want objectively the raid to be very easy and for them to be able to complete it. We need to make raids again that not just forces but encourages players to be to learn their current role. Right now in Pano Elite, you could be unmodded with no wipe mods and beat Pano Elite no problem. That is not the structure we need for elite raids. That is the structure for a regular raid. That's why we have regular raids. So trash players will stay in those raids until they're good enough to become into elite raids. The elite raids is not some special club that we don't want anyone to join. When you're talking about elitist players like myself, I want I encourage tons. I want the competition. I love all these other leagues that are trying to beat elite and the ones that would push us for world first back in the day. That's great. That makes me feel really happy because it's pushing me to become a better player because other players are narrowing the skill gap. So to make assumptions that I only want difficulty is subjective, that includes elite. It isn't there to provide the impossible challenge to the very minority at the top of this game. Once again, Proxy Star bringing up the SM round 20 Paradox Wave examples. That is not what I'm referring to, nor is what I want. I want an elite raid that pushes mechanics and players to know their roles. I don't want some impossible raid like Elite Victory Feat or even Zoo Elite in the beginning. That's not what I want. That's just a clusterfuck of mechanics. That is not an elite raid. We had raids in the past, Foss 2, Nexus, Paradox, even Inner Sanctum. These raids, they weren't elite raids, those were normal raids. But they presented enough of a challenge that it was actually difficult and you needed to become a better player to beat some of these raids. You couldn't just half-ass your way through these raids. You actually had to learn and grow as a player. Now we've got players that don't mod properly, use alpha mats, don't mod at all, don't use white mods, use trash rotations, and they'll just BS their way through it. That is not what we need to have for Elite. We need to strive to better ourselves as players, and that's what this is the types of voices that we need on the forums, not these trash ass Incarnate Reborns type players.